All right, we're back at it again here on this March 14th, 2025. Welcome on into the All Access Football NFL Draft Watch show. Woo! Feeling a little jumpy. I don't know if it's the coffee or it's the 40 days until destination Pittsburgh. We're counting you down. That's right. It's going to be our start of the positional preview series. We've got about 6 more shows left until the 2026 NFL Draft, which is April 23rd. And my co-host Russ Lande will be joining me shortly to preview the quarterbacks and running back position. He's running a little bit late at the office today in Chicago, so he'll join us shortly, a little bit in on the conversation. Of course, I am Rick Serritella, in case you didn't know, checking in from the confines of the Jersey Shore. Right after the show, we're heading over to good old Seaside for the Polar Bear Plunge. We hope to see you over there. Feel free to come by and say hello. Good morning to all of our chat room people. Of course, my Jersey brethren, Douglas Darner, Adams Exploits. Always great to see you. You know, we love to get interactive with it here on the show. And, we are down the final stretch, as I alluded to here in the draft season. So we're putting in the final touches of the NFL Draft Bible. It is a labor of love, a masterpiece work of art. Shout out to the Draft Bible Familia. The scouts are working hard. Dom Ambrose, Lauren Davidoff, Jarrett Regal, Will Donahue, the whole Familia working overtime. We'll have over 500 in-depth scouting reports. Just a reminder also, haven't been promoting it much, but we're going to be live all 3 days of the NFL Draft. So if you're looking for an alternative coverage, live stream analysis, we'll be breaking it down, chopping it up all 3 days. You'll especially want to tune in to day 3 if you want to learn about those players who are being drafted. So we'll talk more about that later on in the show. I was going to save the pro day updates for the end of the show like I did last week. And, I do apologize because of the work that it entails for the Draft Bible and putting that bad boy together. We have not been able to cover the pro day circuit on a daily, regular basis. And so I do apologize for that. We'll get that fixed for next season. But we are doing our best here on the show each and every week to highlight the week that was. So we did that last week. We'll do it again this week. And, one other note, appreciate all the love and support over at Boston Sports Journal, covering them for the New England Patriots. And one topic of conversation that has been heavily on fans' minds, as Adams Exploits in the chat room alludes to, uh, AJ Brown. It's Howie season, right? He's been relatively quiet in the offseason. Dallas Goedert maybe not finding his market value like he thought. I hope he does return back to Philadelphia because he's such a great fit there. Now, the AJ Brown situation is a tricky one. It sounds like Howie wants 2 first-round picks. And then that contract, I think, makes it a little bit difficult to slide into that Patriot salary cap, but it sounds like they're working on it. And at this stage, I think that if a deal is to get done with AJ Brown, it'll probably have to come on draft night after the Eagles have exhausted all their opportunities, standing firm, 40 days. They can still ask a high price. But I think come draft day, we've talked about it. It only takes one bad apple to spoil the bunch. Sometimes it's addition by subtraction. So if the Patriots could flip their 31 and get AJ Brown, cool. I think that would work for both teams, but we shall see. It's on a lot of minds in Philadelphia and New England for sure. All right. Russ Lande will be checking in a little while. We'll go over the quarterback and running back big board, talk about some players we like, talk about some under the radar prospects. If you do want to get a deep dive feel for a very thorough positional overview, deep dive, check out the Scouts Honor podcast I did this past week with Dave Del Cole. And you can find that on the website. We also have the Mark Gorsick interview, which I'll talk about more later on in the show at the end. But let's get into some pro day updates, shall we? Because, we talked about a lot of players opting out of the NFL scouting combine. And that means more emphasis, more value, more importance on the pro day trails, right? So, it's hard to keep up with them all. Our good friend Gil Brandt used to be really on top of it. And again, we'll get that corrected for next season and give you better coverage of the pro days. But we're going to do the best we can here. Starting off with Oklahoma, Grayson Halton, a defensive tackle, kind of in that tier 2 defensive tackle category. 6'2", 300 pounds, ran a really good 40 at 4.82, 25 bench press reps, 36.5-inch vert, 9'5" broad jump. And I do think that he's a borderline top 100 guy, definitely in that mid-round range for the Sooners there. Now, how about linebacker Owen Heineke? He's a former lacrosse guy, converted over to the gridiron, did challenge the NCAA for an extra year of eligibility, lost that lawsuit. So he is now in the draft, 6'1", 229, 4'6", 40, 34.5-inch vert, 9'11" broad. Pretty good workout for Owen Heineke. How about Marvin Jones Jr.? We talked about it. The light bulb never fully turned on, but man, really flashed some potential down there at the East-West Shrine Bowl. You see the size at 6'5", 252. Excellent athleticism, the bend on the edge that you like to see. And he timed in. He just ran the 40-yard dash at 4.69 for Marvin Jones Jr. Jaron Kanak, who I think needs to convert to fullback at the next level. He's right around 6'2", 235. Where did you go, Jaron? 4.52 in the 40, right? But again, kind of, I guess he could play some H-back hybrid type of role, but I think for the long term, if he wants to have a long NFL career, maybe continue to pack on some pounds and play more of a fullback role for Jaron Kanak. We shall see. How about Robert Spears Jennings? Before I get to him, R. Mason Thomas did run the 40-yard dash, 4.67 at 6'2", 244 pounds. Probably a second-round projection there. Now, Robert Spears Jennings jumped through the gymnasium, 4.32 in the 40-yard dash. Very impressive. Very, very impressive time for Robert Spears Jennings. 38-inch vert, 10'5" broad, added a 4.43 short shuttle and 7.12 3-cone. Okay, so there's a look at your Oklahoma Sooners. Over at Oklahoma State, a few under-the-radar prospects that deserve a shout-out. Cornerback Kenneth Harris, 5'11" and 6/8, just a shade under 6 foot tall, 192 pounds. Ran very well at 4.48 in the 40, 39-inch vert, 10.4 broad, and apparently looked very fluid in the positional work. Also, linebacker Brandon Rawls drawing some attention, a little bit undersized, 5'11" and 4/8 inches, 4.75 40, which is rather pedestrian. But how about this? 41-inch vert, 10.2 broad. So Brandon Rawls putting himself on the NFL radar. All right. Rutgers conducted their pro day this week. And man, again, had my nose stuck in the draft Bible book, couldn't get out there, but it's a pro day workout I've been going to for over 2 decades. One guy I do want to highlight, we've talked about him in the past on this show, DT Sheffield, I think, doesn't get talked about very much. And this guy's twitchy as heck. I gave him the Tampa Bay Bucks wide out. That was, I think, a 7th-round pick out of Oregon. Is it Tevin Johnson, maybe? That was the comp that I gave him. But 5'7", 2/8 inches, very undersized, 175 pounds. He's got wheels for days. 4.38 40-yard dash, 42-inch vert, 10'3" broad jump for DT Sheffield. The name you definitely want to know probably after the draft as a priority free agent. All right, moving right along. Georgia Tech, where Haynes King, the quarterback, reportedly had a good workout. Now, I'm having a hard time coming around on Haynes King. Obviously an incredible athlete. I think he can be accurate in the short to intermediate parts of the field. Kind of like a Riley Leonard type of prospect a year ago coming out of Notre Dame. Was that last year or 2 years ago? Just needs more polish in the pass game, Haynes King. Now, his running back, Jamal Haynes, who I'm a big fan of, again, another undersized running back, 4.51 in the 40, not ideal, but his 4.25 short shuttle time, I believe, would have been the fastest amongst running backs in Indianapolis. He also added a 36-inch vertical, but the star of the show for the Yellow Jackets was Jordan Vandenberg. Okay, 310-pound defensive lineman, 35 reps of 225 pounds, timed 4.90 in the 40, 36-inch vert, 911 broad, 419 short shuttle. That's incredible for Jordan Vandenberg at 310 pounds. It's just agility, lateral quickness, change of direction through the roof. All right, how about Kansas? Jalen Daniels, another quarterback who I think, Haynes King is somebody who I think was asked to do wide receiver drills at the combine and chose not to. Jalen Daniels, to me, is a running back. And, apologies to his agent, apologies to our good friend, Coach John D. Filippo, who serves as a consultant over there for the Jayhawks. But, great athlete. I mean, if he wants to play quarterback, the CFL could certainly offer him that. I don't see him as an NFL signal caller, but apparently he had a great workout in T-shirt and gym shorts. So we shall see. LaShawn Williams is somebody who caught my attention along the All-Star trails. I think he was at the Hula Bowl. It might have been the American Bowl. Not the 40 time that I was expecting, because he just seemed to be moving faster than everybody where I saw him, but more quick than fast. 4.59 40-yard dash at 5'9.5", 214 pounds. Good size though. 34.5-inch vert, 10'5" broad. I do think this 40 probably puts him in the undrafted free agent range, but LaShawn Williams is definitely a guy I'd be excited about bringing into training camp and competing for a 53-man roster spot, as is the next player I'm going to speak about, Tommy Dunn. Again, I just love this guy's get off, his hand combat, nice pass rush repertoire, and violent hands. 6'3", 291, timed 5:09 in the 40, 31 bench press reps at 225, 29-inch vertical, 9.6 broads, 4.60 in the short shuttle. And Tommy Dunn was not a combine invite, right on the fringe, borderline draftable late round prospect. But again, just a guy that can really come in and compete for that back end of your roster. And I know his agent, Kyle, is a big fan of the show. So shout out to Kyle if he's watching. And we're moving right along here with who's up next? Troy. How about those Trojans? Got to give Troy a little bit of love. Ethan Connor, the tight end, deserves a shout out. 6'3", 235 pounds, 4.69 40, and 35.5-inch vertical jump. Also, outside linebacker. Keep it easy, AZ Williams, 4.44 in the 40-yard dash, 10'7" broad, 36.5-inch vertical jump for AZ Williams gets the shout out. Talon Green of Arkansas, another quarterback I'm not sold on. He did draw quite the show with all 32 NFL teams in attendance. My beef with Talon Green is just the consistency. He's a guy, sure, you can string along his flash plays and say, wow, look at that, and what a throw, and he's got a cannon of an arm. But when you really watch him, I mean, some of the easy throws are made difficult. Just very inconsistent. And the fact that, he was actually benched on senior day. I mean, what a way to go out. The disrespect shown by his head coach. That's how highly they thought of Talon Green, but nobody tells you that or talks about it. But to me, Talon Green has more questions than answers. Okay. Clemson had their pro day workout this week, and DeMonte Capehart is a guy, former 5-star recruit, didn't really quite fulfill expectations. I think he only had like 6 career starts for the Tigers, but man, again, just one of these guys who flashes. 6'4" and 5/8 inches, 312 pounds, 4.85 in the 40, 33.5-inch vert, 8'11" broad jump. Wade Woodaz, the linebacker there, had a good time in the 40 at 4.52. That definitely helps his draft stock. I know Lauren Davidoff did a report on him, and we kind of saw him as a day 3 high priority free agent. Maybe that gives him a little bump up. How about Cade Klubnik, the quarterback? Uh, using the pro day to flash his athleticism, timing at 4.65 with a 33-inch vertical jump. That Cade Klubnik. Blake Miller, we talked about, has some first round love. Incredible length. Pretty good athlete, too. 5.04 in the 40, 32-inch vert, 9'5" broad jump. And then it was really good to see Antonio Williams, the wide receiver, work out. He's been injured a lot. 5'11", 4/8 inches, 189 pounds, 4.41 in the 40, 39.5-inch vert, 10.4 broad, 4.10 in the short shuttle. How about that? A 4.10 and a 6.76 in the 3-cone. And I think Antonio Williams has become one of these forgotten wide receiver prospects and what I believe to be a very deep and talented wide receiver group. Remember Antonio Williams. He's a potential top 50 guy. I think he could go a lot higher than people realize come draft weekend. All right, Peter Woods, 6'2" and 1/8 inches, 302, ran a 4.54 40-yard dash. Pretty good. 1.67 10-yard split, 29-inch vert, 8'8" broad jump, 4.54 in the shuttle, 7.70 in the 3-cone. All right, couple of signal callers to tell you about. Again, I did not get a chance to get up to Monmouth Pro Day this year, and I was really disappointed about that because one of my favorite under-the-radar prospects is Derek Robertson, who I did get a chance to go up and scout in training camp. We also saw him down at the Hula Bowl, I want to say, and again at the FCS Combine. Now, he had a very good workout, 4.68 and 4.69 in his 2 40-yard dash attempts, and really good positional work. Had the passing script there with Coach Robertson, drove the ball very well, worked the intermediate, showed his deep balls, which I can tell you and I attest to. He drops them right in the bucket, man. Great deep field accuracy and touch. Looked smooth under center, NFL schemes. That's right, because I think he played for Coach Charlton over at Maine. And one thing that stood out to me about Derek Robertson at the Hula Bowl, yes, because he was able to pick up the John Gruden terminology, the vocabulary, the play calling. It was a breeze for him, whereas some of the other signal callers tended to struggle. Very cerebral, experience, can make all the throws. I'm a fan of Derek Robertson. How about another quarterback, Missouri State, Jacob Clark, who also had a impressive American Bowl performance, rallying the troops, game-winning drive. You've seen that throughout his career. 6'4.5", prototypical size, more of a pocket passer. But I think Jacob Clark is one of the real sleepers, and we'll talk more about him as we break down the quarterbacks in just a little while. A couple more guys to get to. There was a small school workout at the NovaCare complex in Philadelphia, and Bucknell quarterback Ralph Rucker IV, giving NFL scouts some homework, somebody to circle back to. Rewrote the record books down there out west in Bucknell. All-time leader in touchdowns with 46. I think he had 25 this year. Nearly 7,000 passing yards. So just another quarterback to get on your radar. And then shout out to Jarrett Regal, NFL Draft Bible Familia, putting TJ Burke on our radar over at Lehigh. 4.56 40, 38-inch vert, 9'3" broad, and a 7.51 3-cone drill. And then one last guy, he's a defensive lineman, as is his teammate, Matt Spanty. 4.65, 33-inch vert, 1.62 10-yard split. So there's some pro day updates. We got a lot in, didn't we? All right, so we're going to kick off our positional preview series with my co-host, Russ Lande, who's in the virtual green room. Before we do, quick little break to take a reset here, and we'll be back with the quarterbacks and running backs preview here on the All Access Football Draft Watch Show. All right, we're back at it again. RIC in the place to be. Rick Serritella telling it like it is when it comes to the NFL draft and everything pigskin here on this March 14th, 2026. Whew, down the stretch we come. 40 days until destination Pittsburgh. We're counting you down with our positional preview series. This is the first of 6 preview shows that we'll do leading up to the 2026 NFL draft. Of course, I am checking in from the confines of the Jersey Shore. We hope to see you out at the Polar Bear Plunge. Shout out to our chat room people, Douglas Durner, Adams Exploits. We hope to see more of you in there. And kudos to Adam for pointing out the NovaCare is now called the Jefferson Healthcare Complex. Thank you. I can't keep up with all the sponsorships because we got our nose buried in the NFL Draft Bible, which will be out in mid-April, putting the final touches there, over 500 in-depth scouting reports. And we're going to kind of preview the big board at the quarterback and running back positions, talk about some players that we like. I just highlighted some of them with our Pro Day report. If you're just tuning into the show, the first part of the show, we gave you some Pro Day updates from the week that was. But here to preview the quarterbacks and running backs with me is a former recruiting coordinator from UCLA, former NFL scout with the Cleveland Browns and then St. Louis Rams. Of course, also a front office executive in the Canadian Football League, as well as the XFL, a former co-host at the CBS Today Sports Show, a professor at Concordia University, as well as a mentor at Sports Management Worldwide, and my co-host each and every Saturday, checking in from the office today, Professor Russell Lande. How we doing in Chi-Town?
Life is good, man. Life is good. Just been a little bit hectic so far.
Yeah, hectic Saturday morning, hectic time of the year for draftniks everywhere and the NFL teams assembling their war room, Russ. You know, we've been breaking it down since training camp. Here we are, 40 days away to the draft. I figured at some point we have to get into our positional previews, and we're going to kick it off here with a look at the quarterbacks and running backs. We'll start off with the quarterbacks and just kind of give us a general overview on just your kind of thoughts on the quarterback class this year.
You know, to me, it's a group of one. I mean, there's Mendoza, who I think is the one guy that when you look at him, you say, okay, this guy to me is a starter. He is a day one starter in the league. Now, is he going to be a Pro Bowler right away? No, but he's a starter. Then you have a bunch of guys with question, whether it's Ty Simpson, how much experience does he have? 1-year starter in college. Those guys usually don't do well. Nussmeier, sort of the guy that we've been hearing about forever. Does he have enough tools to play at the next level, or is he more of a backup? And then you get into some interesting guys like Beck, probably more physical, pure talent than anybody in the draft, but you don't see it on film all the time. Drew Allar, a year ago, you would have said he was going to be the top pick. Now you don't know where he's going to be, and he's coming off injury. So it's a really unique class where I think if you're the Raiders with the top pick, you feel comfortable. Everybody else, there's a lot of dart throwing that's going on and a lot of unknowns. I mean, to me, I think in a normal year, all the guys except for Mendoza would be mid-second to fourth round guys. But there's a chance one or two of these guys could slip into the first round in addition to Mendoza, when I don't think really any of them at this point warrant that first round consideration.
Well, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, my top 5 quarterbacks here: Fernando Mendoza, Ty Simpson, Garrett Nussmeier, who I flip-flop still on a regular basis, Carson Beck, and then Cole Payton, the lefty signal caller out of North Dakota State. After that, I think it gets a little bit dicey. Mendoza, I agree. I think he's going to be a competent quarterback. I think I could see him being in the top half of the, 32 starters. I think he could be a top half and starting caliber quarterback, and you can win some ball games with him.
No doubt.
So
he reminds me a lot of Darnold, I got to say. When I watch him play, they're a little bit stiff in the upper body. Yeah. And he tends to be a guy who's willing to make some throws that are a little risky. Like he'll make some of those out route throws, and that maybe you would think twice if you were a conservative quarterback, but he seems to have a little bit of that. I'm willing to roll the dice. I'm willing to make that throw. And I think a big part of that is Coach Cignetti, I think, had an influence on him. Like, hey, we're a good enough team. You're a good enough player. Be yourself out there. Don't be conservative, go show your skills. There's a lot to like about Mendoza. Like I said, I don't think he's a guy that you would put in that Andrew Luck, that top of the once every 5 years quarterback. But I think he's a worthy guy to consider as a first round guy that should start and be a good, solid starter. The one guy we didn't really get into or mention in that little initial rundown, the Klubnik kid. I mean,
Yeah,
this kid.
I got him. I got him at 7, right behind Drew Alar.
Yeah, and there's a lot
You
of
could
split on him.
You could flip flop those two guys,
Yeah,
right?
Alar and Klubnik. I've heard scouts tell me there are teams that have these guys as right there with Mendoza, in terms of where they project them. I've had teams tell me both of them to them are late round guys. There's a big split on those two quarterbacks. It's going to be very interesting to see. They're probably both going to go earlier than we think. I'm interested to see how they do 2 years down the road from now because they're both immensely talented physically. Can they become the player we've seen flashes of and do it consistently?
Yeah, I think they'll go higher than they deserve. I think they'll go rather high, right? Because there's going to be a sucker that needs a quarterback and say, "Hey, man, we can coach these guys up." And I get
Hackenberg went early. I mean, there are guys that go early every year in the first or second round that really their play doesn't warrant it, but their physical tools make you think you can make them better.
No doubt about it. And Klubnik, yeah, he ran a pretty good 40. He showed off his athleticism at the Clemson Pro Day. And then you get into, well, before we get into the tier 2 or back end guys, I'm just curious to get your thoughts on Mendoza in terms of where you would slot him in last year's draft with the Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders class. And you mentioned a lot of positive attributes for those at home wondering, well, what does he need to work on? I would say, you know what, like the biggest positive is he's going to be an extension of your head coach. He's an ultimate culture guy. But he's going to need work just kind of commanding the huddle. They didn't really huddle at all at Indiana. Didn't really line up under center at all. Didn't really have a complex playbook in terms of spitting out that terminology. So in terms of a lot of things he's going to be asked to do at the next level. And of course, like I compared him to a Joe Flacco just because I think that his mobility as he gets older, like he was able to extend some plays in college, and I love that run in the national championship over the top. But I think he's going to be more of a pocket passer. I do worry about him feeling the rush a little bit and kind of feeling the pressure at times. But he has defied all odds, comes through in the clutch, and has done well against the blitz, but has had his moments struggling against the blitz. But I'm just curious, where would you slot Mendoza if we were putting him in last year's draft? You had Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders. How do you see that?
I think he would have been in the discussion with Ward, Sanders, and Jackson Dart. I think Ward, immensely gifted. Ward is probably the most physically gifted of all those quarterbacks. I mean, he has rare physical tools. But I think Mendoza's in that group. I mean, he's a smart kid. He's clearly physically gifted enough. I'd like to see a little bit more quickness when he's going through his progressions and he identifies the target on that second or third look, getting that ball out fast on those. But I like a lot of what I see. I see similar to what I saw with Sanders and Ward and Dart is a guy who should be a good starter at the next level. Is he going to be a superstar? I don't know if I see that. But should he be a good starter? Yeah, I think he will be. And I think the characters we both talk about all the time with quarterbacks, that's often the determining factor, the mental, the intangibles. I think he's got that covered. So if you're the Raiders, you got to feel pretty comfortable making him the first choice.
No doubt about it. He's Russ Lande. I'm Rick Serritella. All right, in terms of the kind of second tier FBS quarterbacks, you got Haynes King, who I talked about out of Georgia Tech, Joe Fagnano from UConn, pretty good looking player, Taylon Green from Arkansas, talk about a project there, Joey Aguilar from Tennessee, who was trying to get that 7th year but is now in the draft. And then you got guys like Baron Morton, Texas Tech, Luke Altmaier, Illinois, Sawyer Robinson from Baylor, Diego Pavier from Vanderbilt, even Miller Moss, former 5-star from USC over at Louisville. Anybody there that catches your attention?
Well, you mentioned a few. Firstly, Aguilar. I mean, talk about a kid. There's some physical tools there. There's no doubt.
Mhm.
When you watch this kid, he can make some gorgeous throws. Consistency, I think, to me, has been the big thing that you wonder about is can he be that guy with the quick hits? Just bing, bang, booms out, oh, balls out. Can he do it consistently and accurately? That's something I want to see from him. You mentioned Pavia. Pavia, to me, and a guy that we haven't mentioned yet, EJ Warner, to me, they're similar guys. They're not big guys. They're more
Mhm.
above the shoulders than physical tools, both accurate, both able to make quick decisions, get rid of the ball. I think those are both guys that have a chance at the next level to sort of do better than people are projecting. Whether the physical tools end up being there, we don't know because until you get to the pros, you're never exactly sure if your arm is going to make all the throws. But those two guys, I think, mentally are above people. The Jack Strand kid, Morehead State, really
Yep.
intriguing. When you watch clips of him, you can see the arm. He's a big pocket presence. He's obviously going to have to adjust to no longer being the big fish in a small pond, but there's a lot to like about him in terms of where he could be in the future. You mentioned the Jacob Clark kid out of Missouri State. He's a kid that I was tipped off to. It may have been you or it may have been someone else early in the season. I
Yep.
like him. I think there's something there for the long term with him that could really develop. I really think he's got a chance to develop. Those are the guys of the guys you mentioned that jump out to me as unique guys that might have a chance. I do like the Robertson kid, and to me, the biggest sort of dart or unknown of this whole group is Jalen Daniels. You
Yeah.
talk about a kid is he a starter in the NFL? No, to me, no chance of that. But is he that guy that can be a really good, versatile backup who can fill a role here and there, coming off the bench, being that second guy that creates a little confusion? He, to me, is a very unique guy. I don't think he's a good enough passer to be a regular quarterback, but could it be your third emergency guy in game day who gives you some versatility and some unique look options for your offense? There's something about that with him.
Yeah, I think you could put Mark Gronowski out of Iowa in that
Yep.
category as well.
That's a great thought. Yeah. Although he's obviously significantly taller, very similar in that you don't see the passing skills, but you see the athleticism, the running skills, the leadership. Yeah, those two are very similar players.
All right. Well, we just touched base on we got our top 22 quarterbacks there. I when I look at this thing, I could see maybe 6 or 7 being drafted. I just wonder there's a lot of mixed feelings in terms of how long the wait will be to see the second quarterback. Some people think Ty Simpson is going to come off the board a lot higher than we anticipate, but they said the same thing about the Kenny Pickett year. And I remember teams being patient with that one. I think Pickett, did he go in the first or
He did go in
late?
the first.
Yeah.
I honestly, and I mean, I think Simpson's got some traits. I think Pickett was a better player coming out of school than Simpson. And I should add the only other kid that we didn't mention that to me is a very intriguing guy. If I could get him in the 7th round as a PFA, is the McIver kid out of Western Kentucky. You
Yeah.
talk about a kid that early on, there were some flashes of this kid made you think this guy could be a day 2 type guy, and then sort of things went sideways. But there's a lot of talent there, physical talent that makes you think there's something to work with, and a team should take a roll of the dice with him.
Kind of similar to Ty Simpson. I felt like each one of them had a tale of 2 seasons. The first half
Yes,
was completely different than the second half, and it as an evaluator makes you just go
nervous.
back and circle back to the film and try to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's a good look at the quarterback position. We're going to break down every single position, counting you down to the 2026 NFL draft, just 40 days away. Russ, Lande, Rick Serritella here with you on this Saturday, March 14th, 2026. We're here each and every Saturday, so please smash that like button, share it, subscribe it, leave a comment. You got questions, we got answers, and let's try to clear up some of the quarterback questions, shall we, Russ? Because I feel like, again, just a general overview of the running back class. We have the consensus who is Jeremiah Love, and I do think there's some legitimate possibility he could go in the top 5. Now, beyond that, you could ask 5 different scouts, get 5 different answers in terms of who the number 2 running back is. And I think, again, you could see kind of teams wait and sit back. Like I don't see a lot of running backs in the day two category. I think the sweet spot is going to be early day three. But what's your thoughts on the depth class of this running back group?
Well, I think it's solid depth. I mean, when you look at the two Penn State kids, obviously Singleton and Allen, and Singleton to me is a more powerful guy that really I'm intrigued by. I think he's got a future, but I got to be honest. I mean, to me, the guy that jumps out to me that isn't getting the attention he deserves is the kid from Indiana. You brought him up to me early on. I really think Kalen Black may be the second best running back in this whole class. I mean, that kid's electric.
Yeah.
He's powerful, and he plays with that edge, which I think you need as a running back. I think you have to have that attitude. I do like the Desmond Reed kid out of Pitt. I think 20 years ago, if you talked about a 5'6" running back, people laugh you out of the room. You had the Darren Sproles and Maurice Jones-Drew, but that was it. This kid, to me, in today's NFL, Reed is a guy. He can be a contributor. The Whittington kid out of Oregon, love him for an NFL team as a backup, as a guy catching balls out of the backfield. I think it's a good class. The issue is, are there guys beyond, to me, those top 2 or 3 guys that really are guys you're going to say, hey, this is my guy. I want to be my number one, even though nobody really uses that number one to get 200 carries anymore. Is there a guy that can be your top guy, or is it a bunch of number twos in this draft? That's the question that has to be answered. But again, I love Kalen Black. I think there's something special about this kid. I think he's going to end up being way more productive than a lot of the guys that go ahead of him.
Yeah, I guess the biggest question mark to me is just like, how does a guy like that not get invited to the combine? The league must be down on him.
Or there could be things we don't know about him, and that's
there
the
could
other
be. There
what
could
are
be.
the maybe there's medical. There's something there, because when you watch the film, he jumps out.
Yeah.
I mean, the reality is when you
he's one of the best athletes in the entire draft.
And I mean, to me, when I look at running backs, there's a lot of guys who are good, solid runners. But the guys that are twitchy and special, who can make game-changing plays, those are the ones that change games. This kid's got a little of that. There's something there. When the ball's in his hands, he's got a chance. I'm not sure what the reason he didn't go to the combine. I have not talked to a lot of people that have been able to give me clarity on that. But he, to me, is a very unique player with, I think, a ton of NFL potential.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest draft mysteries so far of the draft season. Shout out to Jeffrey Champion in the chat room. Says, what are the odds of Washington trading up for Jeremiah Love? Now, the Commanders have the 7th overall pick. We've talked about very few blue chip talents in this draft, Russ. You can argue Jeremiah Love being one of them. And listen, I don't have a problem taking a running back in the top 7. I might have a problem with the equity it's going to cost you to move up from 7 to, say, number 3 or even number 4 to get Jeremiah Love. You're probably going to have to sacrifice next year's first-round pick as well. And for that just makes me a little bit skeptical. And while Love can be an instant impact game changer, I'll take my chances with a Kalen Black on day 2 and maybe, hold on to that first-round pick. What's your thoughts there in terms of Jeremiah Love? Do you see him in the top 5, Russ? Is he worth trading up and going to get?
In my opinion, no. I'm a believer of you don't trade up for a running back, period, in the first round. And to me, you only take a running back who you think is in that Adrian Peterson, Saquon Barkley mode. I don't know if he's there. Additionally, and let's be brutally honest about it, you could literally have Saquon Barkley, Adrian Peterson. If you have a below average front 5, they're going to look like an average running back. So why invest that pick when you can use that pick on a tackle or a guard or a pass rusher? Because your O-line, that's what wins the games your running game doesn't work without the O-line. I'm going to go get a solid running back behind a good O-line. I feel more than comfortable winning like that. I don't have to don't get me wrong, it's nice to have Barkley or Christian McCaffrey, but I'm not going to go up and get Love. I think he's a phenomenal running back. To me, it's just you don't have to do that in today's NFL. If your O-line is strong, you can win with good, solid running backs. They don't have to be special.
Yeah, no, we've seen heck, Kenneth Walker just got paid for, and maybe he was the difference maker in the Super Bowl. But let's not forget the Patriots got there with Ramondre Stevenson and Travion Henderson. Once upon a time, they got some Super Bowl rings with Antoine Smith, right? So,
Yep.
it
The
can be
O-line,
done.
D-line is what wins. That's what
Yeah.
also opens up holes for the running backs. I mean,
And I remember, not to cut you off, even
Yeah.
one year they found Corey Dillon off the bargain discount ban and rode him to a Super Bowl at the twilight of his career.
No, and I think what we're trying to both say is it's not that you don't want an elite running back, but what do you give up to get that elite running back? What if you could get a top-tier offensive lineman? Does that make whatever running back you have in the second or third round a better runner? Yeah, it does, because your O-line is better.
Yeah, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, I mean, had some durability issues, but, I mean, kind of delivered on that, what it was, 7th round selection.
Yeah, I mean, look at the Chargers. They took a kid, last year in the first round, and who ends up being one of their studs? The Vidal kid.
Yeah.
Who no one was even paying attention to.
Yeah, they drafted one in round 1. They signed the kid from Pittsburgh, big free agent ticket, and winded up getting an undrafted free agent, right?
Yep. I mean, and I'm not knocking the talent level of Love. I'm just saying your O-line has to be good for a running back to be special. The only one who ever did it without much of an O-line, and it's not fair because his O-line was okay, was Barry Sanders. But he was so unique in that he didn't always go to the hole. He just created. Most running backs, even the top ones, follow the play and hit the hole. So I think when you look at it, it's really risky to go up and trade, firstly, to use the top 10 pick, but to consider trading into the top 10 to go get a running back, I think is a foolish maneuver.
Yeah. Well, they're at 7, but they'd have to probably get inside the top 5 for Love. And I go back to almost every year, it seems like an undrafted free agent running back makes an impact. I remember guys like Alfred Williams coming out, Selvin Young, undrafted. They go for
Lande Gary. I mean,
Lande Gary.
Priest Holmes. I mean,
good one. Yeah. All right. And we'll talk about some of those running backs who could be had later on in the draft. First, let me go through the top of the big board. And I agree with you because Love is clearly the top guy. And when I look at the big board, Russ,
yep,
I could state an argument like from 2 through 13, you could mix and match and state a case for any of these guys to be number 2. And that's why I say, like, I think it's worth sitting back on the running back spot because some of these guys are going to be available in day 3.
No
right
doubt.
Now,
even what about your guy that you brought up to me earlier, the Virginia Union kid?
Yeah,
Curtis
Virginia
Allen.
Union, yeah, right? and Virginia, Jamari Taylor.
So I mean, there's so many to me good backs. Why do you put all that capital into one in the first round? You could literally take Curtis Allen and go get LaShawn Williams from Kansas, probably in the 4th and 7th round. One of the two of them is probably going to pan out to be a solid player.
I do like that philosophy, but for right now, and we do have, another war room meeting or two to kind of finalize these big board rankings. But right now, Jeremiah Love is 1. His teammate Jadarian Price is 2. Katron Allen out of Penn State is 3. His teammate Nicholas Singleton is 4. And Singleton got dinged a little bit just because of the injury at the Senior Bowl, kind of putting his training camp status in question. Mike Washington, who we haven't mentioned, I have him right now slotted at 5, obviously 6 foot, 225. What do you have? A 4.38 40, something to that effect. What bothers me here, Russ, 12 fumbles, and my man has got stone hands catching the ball out of the backfield. I'm out on Mike Washington Jr.
Firstly, you mentioned the fumbles. That alone is a major concern because
it's an unnecessary headache. I'm trying to avoid those situations, right?
Yep.
Not trying to embrace them.
No, and how many coaches are good at coaching that out of players?
Yeah.
Jimmy Johnson was great at it. Coach Coughlin was phenomenal. But a lot of coaches don't really do a good job of that. So that, to me, is a major concern. Add in the fact, 20 years ago, you could bring in a running back who couldn't contribute in the passing game, and that was okay. But what was it, 5 or 7 years ago, that big kid came out of Boston College? He was like one of the leaders in the whole country in rushing. And he ends up going
Anthony Dillon?
No, I can't remember the kid's name. It's killing me. He went in the 3rd or 4th round, and he washed out of the league in 2 years because he couldn't catch.
I forgot his name
In
already.
today's day and age, if you can't catch, you're sort of a waste of time.
Yeah.
Because it's not that you can't contribute as a runner. This is what a coach told me early on is if I know you can't catch as a running back, then my job as a defensive coordinator just got so much easier because it's predictability. So I can't play you. It's not just that you can't catch. It's now the defense knows what we're doing. So you can't afford to play a guy who can't catch. So to me, a guy like that with questionable hands and fumbling, and to me, it's also unique is sometimes you get fumblers, but they have great hands out of the backfield. So you know it's a technique problem. Sometimes you have guys who can't catch, but they don't fumble. So you know it's maybe a concentration. But when it's fumbling and can't catch, it may point to actually bad hands.
Yeah.
And if it's bad hands, what's the problem and how do you survive as a professional running back with bad hands? Not corner or safety where you can have bad hands, but running backs sort of need to have good hands.
Especially if you're going to be a rotational running back and I can't play on third downs, it's kind of hard to justify the roster spot. Right behind him, we've got this like cluster of 5'8", 5'9", 220-pound running backs. I'm talking about Jonah Coleman from Washington, Damon Claiborne from Wake Forest, Jam Miller from Alabama, who really had a good combine, and then Kalen Black from Indiana. They're kind of clustered right there in that bunch. Right behind them, somebody I'm a lot higher on than most, Eli Heindenrick out of Navy. He's played that snipe position there for the midshipmen, primarily lined up in the slot, but strictly played running back at the East-West Shrine Bowl. That's the position he wants to play in the pros. Gives me Danny Woodhead vibes all day long. I really like him as a versatile utility weapon. And then you got guys like Emmett Johnson from Nebraska, who was in Heisman consideration at midway through the season. Jaden Ott from Oklahoma, again, like I could put him to number 2 on my big board. And then guys like Jamari Taylor from Virginia. And I should mention Le'Veon Moss, who had the top-rated Blesto grade coming into the year, got injured. But again, there's 13 running backs that you could state a case could be right behind Jeremiah Love, in my opinion.
No, it's a really, like I would say, deep middle running back class in that there's a lot of guys who you think can be solid. There's just not a lot of elite. So which one of those guys from 2 to say 16 or 17, who are the 3 running backs that are going to come out of that group that are going to become productive? And the other ones are probably going to wash away over the years. I mean, you mentioned those guys. How about we talk about, you mentioned the kid from Navy, I like him, but what about, I know I mentioned the kids from Virginia Union and Pittsburgh, but I love the kid at Oregon. There's another kid that I remember, Kajon Owens from Florida International. You talk about a guy that can make plays out in space, really unique player. Another kid I like, the kid Hankerson out of Oregon State. Doesn't get a lot of credit, really a good football player. So it's a very unique running back class in that I don't think the top strength is there, but I think it's actually deeper at the middle to bottom area than most drafts in running back.
Yeah, I mean, day 3, there's still like Seth McGowan from Kentucky really showed me a lot at the Senior Bowl and Combine. I think he's a good-looking running back. Adam Randall from Clemson, 6'2", 225, former linebacker, excellent pass catcher out of the backfield. I mean, how about that as a potential day 3 guy? Even Dean Connors from Houston, he really impressed me as a pass catcher as well during the East-West Shrine Bowl, of course, transferred from New Hampshire. You got the Toledo kid, Chip Trainum. CJ Donaldson from Ohio State was a combine invite. So there's going to be some value late day 3. And again, even undrafted free agents. Like I mentioned Jamal Haynes earlier. I'm not sure he gets drafted. Star Thomas out of Tennessee brings a lot of pedigree and experience there. Jaden Nixon from UCF was a speedster down at the Hula Bowl.
And I'll add the one guy you mentioned earlier that I didn't comment on, the Jam Miller kid.
Yeah,
that's a kid. There are times he flashes.
Yeah,
you say, "Oh, this guy's a legit in the discussion with Love to be the top running back." Then there are other times you watch him, you say he looks pedestrian. He to me is a guy that's hard to figure out because there's something there talent-wise that gets you excited.
Well, he was banged up. He was banged up this year, right? So
all year.
You mentioned the flash. Like if there was one guy other than Love that you're going to say, hey, who's a guy that could maybe be a starter? I think Jam Miller, man.
Yep. And I got to tell you, he looks and plays bigger than 5'8", 215.
Yeah.
If you were to just say, watching him on TV, how big is this kid? I would have put him in the 5'10 and a half, 230 range. He plays physical. He runs through contact. He's a good athlete. There's something about him that is talent-wise. He needs to be discussed more. But like you said, he was dinged all year. And we know the number. We all know the data now that analytics is here. If you're hurt in college, you're probably going to struggle to stay healthy in the pros. And that's one of the things you get concerned about with running backs. Their careers are short enough. So if they were already dinged in college, you better be careful taking one of them early in the NFL draft.
Yeah. And, we were all over Ja'Cory Croskett last year. I think we put a second or third round grade on him, and I felt like that was conservative. But the one guy I would take my chances on this year, and again, I haven't sat down with this young man and gotten to know what the story was this past year at Oklahoma, but Jaden Ott, based on his old film at Cal, based on his combine, based on what I saw at the Senior Bowl, to me, Jaden Ott is a guy that might be one of the biggest surprises in this year's draft class.
He's got a chance because he's a bigger kid in terms of length. When you see his best
6
plays,
foot 210.
yeah, I mean, that's what you're looking for. You talk about a linear kid. He's explosive. And if you took his best 20 plays this year and put him against the best 20 of everybody else, he'd be in the discussion with Love. I mean, his best plays from his college career are really freaky. But he also has some where you wonder what's missing. Is he hurt? Is he confused? Where are his instincts? So he's another guy. I'm not saying he's the same type of guy, but it's Jam Miller in that the talent is there.
Mm-hmm.
Why haven't we seen it all the time?
Yeah, and Heinrich with the 8.53 RAS score, he's one of my personal faves in this year's draft. And I actually in the draft Bible wrote, if the NFL overthinks this one and he somehow manages to slide to day 3 of the draft, he'll be the biggest steal of the entire draft class.
I could see that. I could totally see that.
All right. That is my final thought. Any other things you want to get off your chest here, Russ, before we wrap it up?
I want to mention one kid because we talk quarterbacks and running backs. One quarterback for next year that's not well thought of, or I shouldn't say not well thought of, not well known. He was a small school kid, but he transferred. He's going to be at Youngstown State this year. A kid named Bo Bringard. I don't remember what small Illinois school he was at this year, but I saw a game. I was watching a game on a Saturday, and this kid was impressive. Now, he's not big. He's 6'0", 215, but he's athletic. He seems like he's got that just ability to make plays on the move. I think he's the guy that could really climb for next year. Could be a guy that gets in the discussion. I'm not saying he's going to be a first rounder, but gets in the discussion to be a draftable quarterback when I don't think anybody now is really talking about him as a guy that legitimately is draftable.
Yeah, well, I wrote him down, and I know Mike Tomczak is a coach over there, so I know he'll get some good quarterback coaching. And, of course, his son, Max Tomczak, is a draft-eligible wide receiver for this year's draft class. So, Bo Bringard.
Yeah. He's
popping on to our 2027 big board, which we'll be posting soon over at the All Access Football.
I mean, next year's quarterback class can be a lot of fun when you have the Sorsby kid, the Salem kid, if he actually, the Dante Moore, obviously, Arch, Raiola. I mean, the Mensa kid from Miami that people are talking about.
Well, we say it every year in March. Next year, wait until you see next year's draft class. It's going to be loaded.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it's awful. But hey, that's a whole different discussion.
All right, brother. Well, hey, thanks for checking in from the office this week. We'll do it again next week, shall we? As we get into wide receivers and tight ends, we'll talk about some of these pass-catching targets that these quarterbacks will be throwing to. Enjoy your Saturday and your weekend, and we'll let you boogie here. I'm just going to take care of some housekeeping notes.
All right, my man. As always, I love coming on and talking a little ball, and enjoy the Jersey Shore, brother.
Yeah, we're heading over to the polar bear plunge. I'll be sure to send you some pictures.
All right, my man. Sounds good.
All right, there he goes. Russ Lande checking in from Chicago. All right. Hey, shout out to all the chat room people for keeping it interactive, getting live with us here And I do have some housekeeping notes, a lot of things going on this time of year. So just going to hit a quick reset button. I'll be back in 30 seconds to talk about it. All right, we're back at it again. RSC in a place to be. Rick Serritella here on this March 14th, 2026. Thanks for hanging with us through the duration of the show. We just had the great Russ Lande here to break down quarterbacks and running backs. At the beginning of the show, we spent about the first 20 minutes going over this week's Pro Day updates and try to get as much as we possibly can. We'll continue to do that. We'll be back next week with more Pro Day updates, a look at the wide receiver and tight end big board. And that was a fun conversation. So we do this each and every Saturday live, 10 a.m. Eastern. Make sure you like it, share it, subscribe it. And I do want to just talk about some things going on. As I mentioned at the top of the show, the Draft Bible will be coming out shortly in a few weeks here. We're just putting in the final data, tidying up some final reports. We'll have over 500 scouting reports, and that'll include all of our insider intel gathered from the training camps to in-season games to the all-star circuit, the combine, the pro day trails, verified measurables, background reports, interviews. I mean, everything you could possibly want if you're a draftnik. If not, become a certified draftnik. And if you enjoy the show or you enjoy allaccessfootball.com, we'll be getting into some of our UFL coverage soon. It's a great way to just support the show. And if you want to see more shows, right, we need more subscribers. We're trying to expand our reach and do more programming. So, hey, it's a good way to support the cause. It's a good way to be the most prepared individual when you're sitting there watching the draft weekend, April 23rd through the 25th. So just another reminder, we're going to be live all 3 days of the draft. So day 1, day 2, day 3, especially if you're looking for that alternate coverage, if you want to learn about the players as they're being drafted, we'll be doing that with the NFL Draft Bible Familia. And shout out once again to the scouting department. They're working so hard. Dom Ambrose, Lauren Davidoff, Jarrett Regal, William Donahue. Can't thank them enough for all the hard work they're putting in. Also, Boston Sports Journal. I am covering the NFL draft for our good friend Greg Bedard for the third straight draft season. Very happy about doing that. Of course, I began my career as an intern with the New England Patriots way back, circa 2000, when when Drew Bledsoe went down and Tom Brady came in, and we said, who is this guy? But yeah, so Boston Sports Journal, I just posted a really elaborate article on Patriots draft targets, where they've been on the pro day circuit, who's coming in for official 30 visits, who they met with along the all-star trails. I'm going to do an NFL draft mailbag next week for Boston Sports Journal. So again, I try to chime into some of the comments because you guys are so damn passionate over there. I love it. I'm going to do a mailbox next week, and that's going to include a Patriots mock draft by special request. Also, InsideTheLeague.com, our good friend Neil Stratton, always doing great things. And he also put out the Friday wrap yesterday. I teased that in yesterday's newsletter with a look at some of the NFL free agency. We discussed also the Seattle Seahawks, kind of went inside the combine and what they look for specifically in the interview process. And also the Mark Gorsuch interview. You know, I mentioned I did the Scout Honors podcast in memory of Dave T. Thomas. If you don't know Dave T., please do yourself a favor and go check him out. But Dave Del Cole does a great job keeping that podcast going. And I did a deep dive that I posted on Friday on the website with a positional breakdown of some day 3 undrafted free agent draft gems. And then also he had Mark Gorsak, the former Steelers scout and 40-yard dash start man from the combine, on for 2.5 hours. And it was fun. It was entertaining. It was educational. I learned a lot. If you have a long car ride, I highly recommend the Mark Gorsak podcast, as well as the Inside the League Friday Wrap newsletter that comes out every Friday. I posted the link there in the Friday newsletter, how to sign up for that as well. And then the Sports Management Worldwide. If you missed the football career conference, we sure did have a lot of fun, didn't we? And I do apologize. I know a lot of you have reached out since then, and I'm working my way getting back to you all. But if you want to check out some of the speaking panels, go over to YouTube on the Sports Management Worldwide channel. They have them archived. They were actually broadcast as live streams, but you can go back and watch. Nolan Teasley, I think the assistant general manager, was there from Seattle. They also had Dawn Aponte from the New York Giants, was a great panel. I hosted the technology and data panel with Aaron Schatz, Steve Palazzolo, and Bree. I think Bree was on the media panel. Bree from the Colts, along with Courtney Cronin from ESPN, and Brian Baldinger, a good friend, who will be on to do some shows with us. And shout out to Baldy for all of the coverage he provided on the All-Star trails, as well as the combine, with our co-host Kate Carpenter, who did a phenomenal job there in Indianapolis. And again, the live stream coverage of the 2026 NFL draft will be right here. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like it, share it, subscribe it. Appreciate all the chat room banter. Good to get a question from Jeffrey Champion this week. Of course, Adams Exploits and Douglas Dorner, our Draft Nick diehards who join us each and every week. We thank you so much. Go check us out, allaccessfootball.com. Make sure you secure that NFL Draft Bible. We'll be back with another edition of the All Access Football Draft Watch Show next week with Russ Lande when we break it down on March 21st, and we'll take a look at the wide receivers and tight ends. Thank you for watching, and enjoy your weekend. We're off to the polar bear plunge. See you out